The Zephyrian Council had made their first mistake. When they assumed humans were like every other species in the galaxy, rational, predictable, and ultimately breakable. Their second mistake was cutting off Commander Sarah Chun's left hand as a lesson in compliance. They would not live to make a third. The amputation had been precise, clinical even. The crystalline beings of Zephyr Prime prided themselves on their surgical efficiency, using molecular disruptors that cauterize as they sever. No blood, no mess, just a clean separation of flesh and bone that would serve as a permanent reminder of humanity's new place in their expanding empire. Your species will learn to submit, High Arbiter Kefino had declared, his translucent form shimmering with satisfied malevolence. This one sacrifice will teach the rest of your kind that resistance is futile. Commander Chun had said nothing as medical drones sealed her wound. She had simply looked at the Arbiter with those unsettling human eyes, not the compound sensors of the Zephyrians or the heat-detecting organs of the Milari, but those strange predatory orbs that seemed to pierce straight through to one's core essence. The Zephyrians released her as planned, expecting her to return to Earth as a broken symbol of their dominance. Instead, she had vanished into the lawless sectors of the Outer Rim. 3 months later, reports began filtering in from across Zephyrian space, ships disappearing, outposts going silent, supply convoys found drifting empty, their crews nowhere to be found. The attack showed a pattern that chilled even the most veteran Zephyrian military analysts' surgical precision combined with absolute ruthlessness. The survivor accounts were consistent and terrifying. A single human female left arm ending in what appeared to be some form of adaptive prosthetic, leading strike teams of the galaxy's most feared mercenaries. But it wasn't the mercenaries that made hardened soldiers wake screaming from their sleep cycles. It was her. Captain Veltar had been the first to see her in action and lived to report it. His destroyer had been boarded while patrolling the Kepler Nebula. Security recordings showed the human moving through corridors with fluid, predatory grace, her prosthetic arm interfacing directly with the ship's systems, while her organic hand wielded a weapon that defied classification. It wasn't quite a sword. The blade seemed to shift and adapt, sometimes monomolecular thin for cutting through armor, sometimes broadening into a cleaving edge that could shear through bulkheads. Energy coursed along its length, not the clean plasma of civilized weapons, but something raw and primitive that spoke to the deepest fears embedded in evolutionary memory. She didn't just kill my crew, Veltar had testified to the council, his crystalline form flickering with trauma-induced instability. She hunted them, like some ancient predator given starship technology and an infinite capacity for vengeance. The Zephyrians had initially dismissed these reports as exaggerations born of fear. They were the apex civilization of this sector, having conquered dozens of species through superior technology and tactical doctrine. One main human could not possibly pose a significant threat. Then she hit the fortress world of Zephyr 7, the planetary defense grid that had withstood siege. By 3 different alien armadas went dark in 17 minutes. The garrison of 50,000 elite Zephyrian troops simply vanished, not killed, vanish. The only trace was a message burned into the command center's main display in human script. You wanted to teach lessons. Class is in session. High Arbiter Kefino finally understood what his ancestors had known but forgotten in their millennia of technological supremacy, that intelligence without wisdom was just elaborate foolishness, and that some enemies became more dangerous when wounded. The humans' campaign escalated from raids to systematic dismantlement. She had studied their society, their military doctrine, their psychology. Every strike targeted not just strategic assets, but the Zephyrian sense of superiority. She turned their own precision against them, their own clinical efficiency into a mirror that reflected their cruelty back tenfold. The breakthrough came when Zephyrian intelligence finally decrypted part of her communications network. They learned she had been collaborating with other human survivors' military personnel scattered across the galaxy who had been thought dead or missing. The revelation was staggering. She hadn't been acting alone. She had been building an army, but it was the intercepted personal log entry that truly shattered Zephyrian confidence. They cut off my hand thinking they were taking away my ability to fight. They never understood that humans don't fight with our hands, we fight with our minds. Our will, our absolute refusal to accept defeat. The hand was just a tool. I found better tools now. And I've had 3 months to remember everyone they've killed, everyone they've enslaved, everyone they've broken. I remember them all. And I'm coming for every single Zephyrian who thought terror was a weapon only they could wield. The final assault came at dawn on Zephyr Prime. The human had bypassed every defense, infiltrated every secure facility, turned every advantage into a liability. She stood in the council chamber where her hand had been severed. But she was no longer the same person who had been dragged there in chains. The prosthetic arm moved with inhuman precision as it interfaced with the planetary defense network, turning the world's own weapons against its masters. The sword in her other hand hummed with barely contained energy as she faced the cowering council. "You wanted to teach my species about submission," she said, her voice carrying the weight of worlds. "Allow me to return the favor." High Arbiter Kethano S. last coherent thought was a bitter understanding of why humans had earned whispered legends across 100 worlds before they ever reached the stars. They weren't just another species to be conquered and cataloged. They were something far more dangerous. They were survivors who remembered everything, and they always came back.